Hi all. Last week we announced the Azure Skills Plugin, and we've gotten some great feedback on it. But one of the things I want to do now is I want to show you how to get up and get going with the plugin so you can use it. So what I have a project we're going to work with. This is a photo uploader. It's a pretty simple application. Just lets you upload photos and will store them and allow you to share those photos. Um, so what I've done over here in my terminal is I have cloned that repo down, and now all I'm going to do is Copilot, and I'm going to run in YOLO mode. I'm not going to resume previous session. Let's get this going. All right. So for this project, let's take a look and see what we've got here. So I have a couple of MCP servers that got installed from the Azure Skills plugin, Azure and Context 7. And then I have a whole bunch of skills. So most of these, except for this Sensei skill here, all showed up when I installed the Azure Skills plugin. So I'm in pretty good shape. Now, let's do this. There is a command we can run here called plugin. We're going to run plugin update Azure. I'm going to do that just to make sure. I have another instance of Copilot running here. So if you run into issues like that, that often means that you have more than one instance of Copilot. So let's update this again. There we go, successfully updated. There's 22 skills. We're looking good. Okay, I had to jump out real quick and restart because I was in the wrong folder. And so now that I've done that, let me show you something here real fast that I also wanted to point out. In the Azure Skills repo, there's some install instructions, and there's two commands that we would need to run. So if I didn't have the plugin already installed, I would first run this marketplace add command. You can see here, and it's also in the doc. And then if I did have that in, once I have the marketplace installed, then I can run plugin install Azure Skills, and that'll go ahead and install the skills. And then I can validate that just like we looked at before. I can look at the skills, and here's all of my Azure skills. Terrific. Okay, now we can move on to the actual deployment. Help me deploy this application to Azure. So we're going to prompt it again, and it's going to go off and analyze. It'll come back, I'm assuming, and ask some questions. And then we'll be able to proceed with deploying this to Azure. Okay, so right here, it's analyzed some of the files, and now what it's doing is it's calling one of our skills, Azure Prepare. This is a super important skill that we need to call. It helps us do all of the planning phase of getting ready to deploy something to Azure. So we have a couple other skills that often get called in this process, but this is one of the key ones. And this is where we can really differentiate from just the model on its own. Um, so project classification, that's our first question. And I'm going to say we're actually going to deploy this to production. I want you to see that we can do more than just a POC or a hello world type example. We're actually going to do this production level. It'll ask me a different set of questions if all goes well. We'll be able to see how that goes. It is production, but I'm not going to scale this super large. So we're going to say small, less than 1,000 users. Budget profile, and I don't need to spend a whole bunch of money, but I will say balanced value for the money. So I just want to make sure that what we deploy is a little more realistic here. And the Azure subscription ID, leave it blank to auto detect. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then which region do we want to deploy it to? So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say, let's use West US 3. So now it's taking the information I gave it, incorporating that into the plans, We can see here that it's listing the Azure subscriptions. I have a bunch of subscriptions. It was a very large file, and I'm hoping that it comes out of there and uses my demo subscription. Oh, I didn't see anything as default. So it's actually going to go to the CLI and do it. So here we go. Yeah, we're going to use the current C. Harris demo subscription. Good job, Copilot. And now here's another tool that we have, Azure Quotas. So basically, it's going to help it figure out, do I have quota in my subscription to deploy the necessary resources to the region that I'm interested in? Now it's also, we have a tool for this, but it's running the CLI. But we have it's checking for some deny policies. So we have another tool that it can run to look to see if there's any policies that would block my deployment. All right, so here's a summary of what we're going to deploy. Azure Container Apps, consumption tier, West US 3 in my subscription. It's going to use Azure Developer CLI with Bicep. And we don't have SKUs for those. That's fine. I didn't find any blocking policies. So here's where it should have, like this is Copilot making these decisions on this particular thing. So I'm going to tell it, switch to use. I don't want it to proceed yet. I actually want to use the blob store now. And this is going to take it a little bit. Like it's going to have to use the Azure SDK. You can see the Azure Blob Storage SDK instead of local file system. So this is going to result in code changes that Copilot's going to do. It's actually calling, this is a good one here, it's calling Azure best practices. And so there's going to be some things in there that talk to it about how we should do this securely, properly, and make sure that we go down the right path that will help make sure that this is ready for a production deployment. So you can see that we're actually using managed identity in here. So that's good. We want it to use that. Our subscriptions here, we actually have a policy that will prevent the resources from being deployed that aren't using managed identity when connecting to a storage account. So it's great. Using the best practices, it figures that out and helps us go down that correct path. So it looks like we're on the right path. I'm hoping we end up with a successful deployment. That's always fun. At the same time, it'll be interesting if we do find some errors in the deployment and we can see how Copilot with the skills and the MCP tools can help resolve those. Okay, so I'm going to jump back in here real quick while it's been working. It's created all the bicep for us. But then now it's actually running the Azure Validate skill. So this is the skill we use to validate before a deployment and help make sure that basically it's a double check. Let's make sure that everything's correct and we don't run into any issues that would prevent our deployment from being successful. Okay, so now the step it's running is an AZD command called provision preview. And that is AZD's version of doing a validation before it can run. Oh, so it's finding that Docker's not running, which is the case. So I'm going to go ahead and start Docker Desktop for it. It's going to need that in order to build the container so that we can ship it to container apps. So Docker Desktop's coming up. Should be okay in just a minute. Just updating the plan. And sometimes it might be a little bit annoying as it's managing this plan, but if I were to leave right now and jump back in later, then Copilot, even if I start a brand new session and don't resume this one, it'll be able to figure out where it's at. So I'm just going to tell it I already started Docker, so you can go ahead and deploy now. It missed a policy check, and now it's going to fix it. I need to update the bicep to disable shared access key on the storage account. So we had a failure there, but Copilot now is going back and updating those files. The storage account fixes applied, and now it's redeploying. So this is pretty nice because even though it hit an issue here, Copilot's able to fix a lot of these on its own. And it can do that either with training data that the model has, and Claude Opus that I'm using, it's a smart model, um, or it can use tools that we have. So if it needed to, it could call our documentation tool to go get information from the Microsoft Learn docs, or there's a number of other tools that it can use to get what it needs. Uh-oh, we have a failure with the container app. So we do get to see an example of some troubleshooting here, or another example. Let's watch and see what the issue is and what tools. Okay, so here it's using a placeholder image. There we go. Now we have our container app up and running. That's good. However, the app right now was just using that placeholder image. Okay, so we now have a successful deployment. So this is great. Copilot's verifying the endpoint. There we go. Our app is now live. So let's go check it out. Let's see if it works. Oh, that was actually really fast. And let's choose a photo, and we'll get one of the fire truck here. And I'm going to say this is from the fire department. Upload our photo. Okay, our photo would have just gotten uploaded into blob storage. And let's switch over here to the gallery. And there we go. There is our photo. That's fantastic. All right. So we have taken an application that we had, something that was pre-built, and just used the Azure Skills Plugin, which includes all those skills as well as the Azure MCP. And then that helped us get this thing deployed to Azure successfully. It did take us a little bit of time, probably about 30 minutes through this process. But you could see it basically figured everything out on its own. It asked me where it had questions, and it did all the troubleshooting when it ran into issues. This is what we want. We want these tools, these agents, to help us in these scenarios. And so our job as the Azure Skills Plugin team is to build those tools to augment your agents to make this easier for you. So try it out. Let me know how it goes, and I'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks a lot.